8. Organizing and outlining. Sarah Kim, Douglas Marshall, June Pulliam, Victoria Vanist, and James Jurgen. Chapter Overview. 8. Organizing and outlining. 8.1. Learning objectives and key terms. 8.2. Why is organizing and outlining important? 3. The topic, general purpose, specific purpose, and thesis. 8.4. Organizational patterns of arrangement for informative speeches. 8.5. Outlining your speech. 8.1. Learning objectives and key terms. Select a topic appropriate to the audience and occasion. Formulate a specific purpose statement that identifies precisely what you will do in your speech. Craft a thesis statement that clearly and succinctly summarizes the argument you will make in your speech. Identify and arrange the main points of your speech according to one of many organizational styles discussed in this chapter. Connect the points of your speech to one another. Create a preparation and speaking outline for your speech. Causal pattern, chronological pattern, coordination, division, main points, parallelism, preparation, outline, preview statement, purpose statement, signpost, spatial pattern, speaking outline, specific purpose statement, subordination, thesis, topical pattern, transitional statements, learning objectives, key terms. 8.2. Why is organizing and outlining important? Introduction to organizing and outlining. Giving a speech or presentation can be a daunting task for anyone, especially inexperienced public speakers or students in introductory speech courses. Speaking to an audience can also be a rewarding experience for speakers who are willing to put in the extra effort needed to craft rhetorical masterpieces. Indeed, speeches and presentations must be crafted. Such a design requires that speakers do a great deal of preparatory work, like selecting a specific topic and deciding on a particular purpose for their speech. Once the topic and purpose have been decided on, a thesis statement or central idea can be prepared. After these things are established, speakers must select the main points of their speech, which should be organized in a way that illuminates the speaker's perspective or approach to their speech. In a nutshell, effective public speeches are focused on particular topics and contain main points that are relevant to both the topic and the audience. For all of these components to come together convincingly, organizing and outlining must be done prior to giving a speech. This chapter addresses a variety of strategies needed to craft the body of speeches. The chapter begins at the initial stages of speech writing, selecting an important and relevant topic for your audience. The more difficult task of formulating a purpose statement is discussed next. A purpose statement drives the organization of the speech since different purposes necessitate different types of evidence and presentation styles. Next, the chapter offers a variety of organizational strategies for the body of your speech. Not every strategy will be appropriate for every speech, so the strengths and weaknesses of the organizational styles are also addressed. The chapter then discusses ways to connect your main points and to draw links between your main points and the purpose you have chosen. In the final section of this chapter, one of the most important steps in speech writing, outlining your speech, is discussed. The chapter provides the correct format for outlines as well as information on how to write a preparation outline and a speaking outline. 3. The topic, general purpose, specific purpose, and thesis. Before any work can be done on crafting the body of your speech or presentation, you must first do some prep work, selecting a topic, formulating a general purpose, a specific purpose statement, and crafting a central idea or thesis statement. In doing so, you lay the foundation for your speech by making important decisions about what you will speak about and for what purpose you will speak. These decisions will influence and guide the entire speechwriting process, so it is wise to think carefully and critically during these beginning stages. Understanding the general purpose. Before any work on a speech can be done, the speaker needs to understand the general purpose of the speech. The general purpose is what the speaker hopes to accomplish and will help guide in the selection of a topic. The instructor generally provides the general purpose for a speech, which fall into one of three categories. A general purpose to inform would mean that the speaker is teaching the audience about a topic, increasing their understanding and awareness, or providing new information about a topic the audience might already know. Informative speeches are designed to present the facts, but not give the speaker's opinion or any call to action. A general purpose to persuade would mean that the speaker is choosing the side of a topic and advocating for their side or belief. The speaker is asking the audience to believe in their stance or to take an action in support of their topic. A general purpose to entertain often entails short speeches of ceremony, where the speaker is connecting the audience to the celebration. You can see how these general purposes are very different. An informative speech is just facts. The speaker would not be able to provide an opinion or direction on what to do with the information, whereas a persuasive speech includes the speaker's opinions and direction on what to do with the information. Before a speaker chooses a topic, they must first understand the general purpose. Selecting a topic generally, speakers focus on one or more interrelated topics, relatively broad concepts, ideas, or problems that are relevant for particular audiences. The most common way that speakers discover topics is by simply observing what is happening around them at their school, in their local government, or around the world. Opportunities abound for those interested in engaging speech as a tool for change. Perhaps the simplest way to find a topic is to ask yourself a few questions, including: what important events are occurring locally, nationally, and internationally? What do I care about most? Is there someone or something I can advocate for? What makes me angry happy? What beliefs, attitudes do I want to share? Is there some information the audience needs to know? Students speak about what is interesting to them and their audiences. What topics do you think are relevant today? There are other questions you might ask yourself too, but these should lead you to at least a few topical choices. The most important work that these questions do is to locate topics within your pre-existing sphere of knowledge and interest. Topics should be ideas that interest the speaker or are part of their daily lives. In order for a topic to be effective, the speaker needs to have some credibility or connection to the topic. It would be unfair to ask the audience to donate to a cause that the speaker has never donated to. There must be a connection to the topic for the speaker to be seen as credible. David Zarefsky also identifies brainstorming as a way to develop speech topics, a strategy that can be helpful if the questions listed above did not yield an appropriate or interesting topic. Brainstorming involves looking at your daily activities to determine what you could share with an audience. Perhaps you work out regularly or eat healthy. You could explain that to an audience or demonstrate how to dribble a basketball. If you regularly play video games, you may advocate for us to take up video games or explain the history of video games. Anything that you find interesting or important might turn into a topic. Starting with a topic you are already interested in will make writing and presenting your speech a more enjoyable and meaningful experience. It means that your entire speech writing process will focus on something you find important and that you can present this information to people who stand to benefit from your speech. At this point, it is also important to consider the audience before choosing a topic. While we might really enjoy a lot of different things that could be topics, if the audience has no connection to that topic, then it wouldn't be meaningful for the speaker or audience. Since we always have a diverse audience, we want to make sure that everyone in the audience can gain some new information from the speech. Sometimes a topic might be too complicated to cover in the amount of time we have to present, or involve too much information, then that topic might not work for the assignment. And finally, if the audience cannot gain anything from a topic, then it won't work. Ultimately, when we choose a topic, we want to pick something that we are familiar with and enjoy, we have credibility why, and that the audience could gain something from. Once you have answered these questions and narrowed your responses, you are still not done selecting your topic. For instance, you might have decided that you really care about breeds of dogs. This is a very broad topic and could easily lead to a dozen different speeches. To resolve this problem, speakers must also consider the audience to whom they will speak, the scope of their presentation, and the outcome they wish to achieve. Formulating the purpose statements. The general purpose is a broad goal of the speech: to inform, to persuade, or to entertain. By honing in on a very specific topic, you begin the work of formulating your purpose statement. In short, a purpose statement clearly states what it is you would like to achieve. Purpose statements are especially helpful for guiding you as you prepare your speech. When deciding which main points, facts, and examples to include, you should simply ask yourself whether they are relevant not only to the topic you have selected, but also whether they support the goal you outlined in your purpose statement. The general purpose statement of a speech may be to inform, to persuade, to celebrate, or to entertain. Thus, it is common to frame a specific purpose statement around one of these goals. According to O'Hare, Stewart, and Rubenstein, a A specific purpose statement expresses both the topic and the general speech purpose in action form and in terms of the specific objectives you hope to achieve. The specific purpose is a single sentence that states what the audience will gain from this speech, or what will happen at the end of the speech. The specific purpose is a combination of the general purpose and the topic, and helps the speaker to focus in on what can be achieved in a short speech. The specific purpose expresses the general purpose and topic in terms of a specific objective you hope to achieve. To go back to the topic of a dog breed, the general purpose might be to inform, a specific purpose might be to inform the audience about how corgis became household pets. If the general purpose is to persuade, the specific purpose might be to persuade the audience that dog breed deemed dangerous should not be excluded from living in the cities. In short, the general purpose statement lays out the broader goal of the speech, while the specific purpose statement describes precisely what the speech is intended to do. The specific purpose should focus on the audience and be measurable. If I were to ask the audience before I began the speech how many people know how corgis became household pets, they could raise their hand, and if I ask at the end of my speech how many people know how corgis became household pets, I should see a lot more hands. The specific purpose is the so what of the speech. It helps the speaker focus on the audience and take a bigger idea of a topic and narrow it down to what can be accomplished in a short amount of time. Writing the thesis statement. The thesis statement is a single sentence that captures the main idea of the speech. The specific purpose statement is a tool that you will use as you write your speech, but it is unlikely that it will appear verbatim in your speech. Instead, you will want to convert the specific purpose statement into a central idea or thesis statement that you will share with your audience. Just like in a written paper, the thesis comes in the first part of the paper. In a speech, the thesis comes within the first few sentences of the speech. The thesis must be stated and tells the audience what to expect in this speech. A thesis statement may encapsulate the main idea of a speech in just a sentence or two and be designed to give audiences a quick preview of what the entire speech will be about. The thesis statement should be a single declarative statement followed by a separate preview statement. If you are a Harry Potter enthusiast, you may write a thesis statement the following way using the above approach. J.K. Rowling is a renowned author of the Harry Potter series with a Cinderella-like story of a rise to fame. Writing the preview statement. A preview statement clearly states the main points of the speech. A preview statement is a guide to your speech. This is the part of the speech that literally tells the audience exactly what main points you will cover. If you were to get on any freeway, there would be a green sign on the side of the road that tells you what cities are coming up. This is what your preview statement does. It tells the audience what points will be covered in the speech. Best of all, you would know what to look for. So, if we take our J.K. Rowling example, the thesis and preview would look like this. J.K. Rowling is a renowned author of the Harry Potter series with a Cinderella-like rags to riches story. First, I will tell you about J.K. Rowling's humble beginnings. Then, I will describe her personal struggles as a single mom. Finally, I will explain how she overcame adversity and became one of the richest women in the United Kingdom. Writing the body of your speech. Once you have finished the important work of deciding what your speech will be about, as well as formulating the purpose statement and crafting the thesis, you should turn your attention to writing the body of your speech. The body of your speech consists of 3-4 main points that support your thesis and help the audience to achieve the specific purpose. Creating main points helps to chunk the information you are sharing with your audience into easy-to-understand organization. Choosing your main points will help you focus in on what information you want to share with the audience in order to prove your thesis. Since we can't tell the audience everything about our topic, we need to choose our main points to make sure we can share the most important information with our audience. All of your main points are contained in the body, and normally this section is prepared well before you ever write the introduction or conclusion. The body of your speech will consume the largest amount of time to present, and it is the opportunity for you to elaborate on your supporting evidence, such as facts, statistics, examples, and opinions that support your thesis statement and do the work you have outlined in the specific purpose statement. Combining these various elements into a cohesive and compelling speech, however, is not without its difficulties, the first of which is deciding which elements to include and how they ought to be organized to best suit your purpose. Point 4. Organizational patterns of arrangement for informative speeches. After deciding which main points and subpoints you must include, you can get to work writing up the speech. Before you do so, however, it is helpful to consider how you will organize the ideas. There are many ways you can organize speeches, and these approaches will be different depending on whether you are preparing an informative or persuasive speech. These are referred to as organizational patterns for arranging your main points in a speech. Chronological, topical, spatial, or causal patterns may be better suited to informative speeches, whereas the problem solution, Monroe's motivated sequence, claim to proof, or refutation pattern would work best for persuasive speeches. Sample organizational patterns and outlines for persuasive speeches can be found in Chapter 17. Chronological pattern puts the main points in time order in a chronological speech. Main points are delivered according to when they happened and could be traced on a calendar or clock. Some professors use the term temporal to reflect any speech pattern dealing with taking the audience through time. Arranging main points in chronological order can be helpful when describing historical events to an audience, as well as when the order of events is necessary to understand what you wish to convey. Informative speeches about a series of events most commonly engage the chronological style, as do many process speeches. Another time when the chronological style makes sense is when you tell the story of someone's life or career. For instance, a speech about Oprah Winfrey might be arranged chronologically. In this case, the main points are arranged by following Winfrey's life from birth to the present time. Life events are connected according to when they happened and highlight the progression of Winfrey's career. Organizing the speech in this way illustrates the interconnectedness of life events. Below you will find a way in which you can organize your main points chronologically. Topic: Oprah Winfrey thesis. Oprah's career can be understood by 3 key interconnected life stages. Preview. First, let's look at Oprah's early life. Then we will look at her early career, followed by her years during the Oprah Winfrey Show. Oprah's childhood was spent in rural Mississippi, where she endured sexual abuse from family members. 2. Oprah's early career was characterized by stints on local radio and television networks in Nashville and Chicago. 3. Oprah's tenure as host of the Oprah Winfrey Show began in 1986 and lasted until 2011, a period of time marked by much success. Topical organizational pattern uses main points that support the thesis, but where order of presentation is not important when the main points of your speech center on ideas that are more distinct from one another, a topical organization pattern may be used. In a topical speech, main points are developed according to the different aspects, subtopics, or topics within an overall topic. Although they are all part of the overall topic, the order in which they are presented really doesn't matter. For example, you are currently attending college. Within your college, there are various student services that are important for you to use while you are here. You may use the library, the Learning Center, Student Development Office, ASG Computer Lab, and Financial Aid. To organize this speech topically, it doesn't matter which area you speak about first, but here is how you could organize it. Topic: Student Services at College of the Canyons Thesis and Preview. College of the Canyons has 3 important student services, which include Learning Support Services, Student Support Services, and Financial Support Services. Learning Support Services are available and include the library, the Learning Center, and the ASG Computer Lab. All are helpful to students looking for schoolwork assistance. 2. The student support services available include the Student Development Office, which assists with student-related needs. 3. Financial support services are also on campus at the Financial Aid Office, offering multiple ways to pay for education. Spatial organizational pattern describes spaces. The main points would be spaces to support the thesis. Another way to organize the points of a speech is through a spatial speech, which arranges main points according to their physical and geographic relationships. The spatial style is an especially useful organization pattern when the main point's importance is derived from its location or directional focus. Things can be described from top to bottom, inside to outside, left to right, north to south, and so on. Importantly, speakers using a spatial style should offer commentary about the placement of the main points as they move through the speech, alerting audience members to the location changes. For instance, a speech about the University of Georgia might be arranged spatially. In this example, the spatial organization frames the discussion in terms of the campus layout. The spatial style is fitting since the differences in architecture and uses of space are related to particular geographic areas, making location a central organizing factor. As such, the spatial style highlights these location differences. Topic: University of Georgia thesis. The University of Georgia is arranged into three distinct sections, which are characterized by architectural and disciplinary differences. In North Campus, one will find the university's oldest building, a sprawling tree-lined quad, and the famous arches, all of which are nestled against Athens' downtown District 2. In West Campus, dozens of dormitories provide housing for the university's large undergraduate population, and students can regularly be found lounging outside or at one of the dining halls. 3. In East Campus, students delight in newly constructed modern buildings and enjoy the benefits of the university's health center, recreational facilities, and science research buildings. Causal pattern. Causal organizational pattern. The main points are the cause and effect of the event. In an informative speech, this is best used for processes. A causal speech informs audience members about causes and effects that have already happened with respect to some condition, event, etc. One approach can be to share what caused something to happen and what the effects were. Or the reverse approach can be taken, where a speaker can begin by sharing the effects of something that occurred and then share what caused it. For example, in 1994, there was a 6.7 magnitude earthquake that occurred in the San Fernando Valley in Northridge, California. Let's look at how we can arrange this speech first by using a cause-effect pattern. Topic: Northridge earthquake thesis. The Northridge earthquake was a devastating event that was caused by an unknown fault and resulted in the loss of life and billions of dollars of damage. The Northridge earthquake was caused by a fault that was previously unknown and located 9 miles beneath Northridge. 2. The Northridge earthquake resulted in the loss of 60 to 70 lives. 2. Over $40 billion of damage in Northridge and surrounding communities occurred in property and infrastructure. Depending on your topic, you may decide it is more impactful to start with the effects and work back to the causes. Let's take the same example and flip it around. Thesis. The Northridge earthquake was a devastating event that resulted in the loss of life and billions of dollars in damage, and was caused by an unknown fault below Northridge. The Northridge earthquake resulted in the loss of 60 to 70 lives. 2. Over $40 billion of damage in Northridge and surrounding communities occurred in property and infrastructure. 3. The Northridge earthquake was caused by a fault that was previously unknown and located 9 miles beneath Northridge. Why might you decide to use an effect-cause approach rather than a cause-effect approach? In this particular example, the effects of the earthquake were truly horrible. If you heard all of that information first, you would be much more curious to hear about what caused such devastation. Sometimes natural disasters are not that exciting, even when they are horrible. Why? Unless they affect us directly, we may not have the same attachment to the topic. This is one example where an effect-cause approach may be very impactful. 5. Outlining your speech. Most speakers and audience members would agree that an organized speech is both easier to present as well as easier for the audience to understand. Public speaking teachers especially believe in the power of organizing your speech, which is why they encourage that you create an outline for your speech. Outlines, or textual arrangements of all the various elements of a speech, are a very common way of organizing a speech before it is delivered. Most extemporaneous speakers keep their outlines with them during the speech to ensure that they do not leave out any important elements and to keep them on track. Writing an outline is also important to the speechwriting process, since doing so forces the speakers to think about the main ideas, known as main points and subpoints, the examples they wish to include, and the ways in which these elements correspond to one another. In short, the outline functions both as an organization tool and as a reference for delivering a speech. Outline types. There are two types of outlines: the preparation outline and the speaking outline. Preparation outline. The first outline you will write is called the preparation outline. Also called a skeletal, working, practice, or rough outline, the preparation outline is used to work through the various components of your speech in an organized format. Stephen E. Lucas put it simply: the preparation outline is just what its name implies, an outline that helps you prepare the speech. When writing the preparation outline, you should focus on finalizing the specific purpose and thesis statement, logically ordering your main points, deciding where supporting material should be included, and refining the overall organizational pattern of your speech. As you write the preparation outline, you may find it necessary to rearrange your points or to add or subtract supporting material. You may also realize that some of your main points are sufficiently supported while others are lacking. The final draft of your preparation outline should include full sentences. In most cases, however, the preparation outline is reserved for planning purposes only and is translated into a speaking outline before you deliver the speech. Keep in mind, though, even a full sentence outline is not an essay. A speaking outline is the outline you will prepare for use when delivering the speech. The speaking outline is much more succinct than the preparation outline and includes brief phrases or words that remind the speakers of the points they need to make, plus supporting material and signposts. The words or phrases used on the speaking outline should briefly encapsulate all the information needed to prompt the speaker to accurately deliver the speech. Although some cases call for reading a speech verbatim from the full sentence outline, in most cases speakers will simply refer to their speaking outline for quick reminders and to ensure that they do not omit any important information. Because it uses just words or short phrases and not full sentences, the speaking outline can easily be transferred to index cards that can be referenced during a speech. However, check with your instructor regarding what you will be allowed to use for your speech. Components of outlines. The main components of the outlines are the main points, subordination and coordination, parallelism, division, and the connection of main points. Main points are the main ideas in the speech and support the thesis. In other words, the main points are what your audience should remember from your talk, and they are phrased as single declarative sentences. These are never phrased as a question, nor can they be a quote or form of citation. Any supporting material you have will be put in your outline as a subpoint. Since this is a public speaking class, your instructor will decide how long your speeches will be, but in general you can assume that no speech will be longer than 10 minutes in length. Given that alone, we can make one assumption. All speeches will fall between 2 to 5 main points based simply on length. However, 3 main points is the ideal for a speech of this length. If you are working on an outline and you have 10 main points, something is wrong and you need to revisit your ideas to see how you need to reorganize your points. All main points are preceded by Roman numerals. Subpoints are preceded by capital letters, then Arabic numerals, lowercase letters. You can subordinate further than this. Speak with your instructor regarding his or her specific instructions. Each level of subordination is also differentiated from its predecessor by indenting a few spaces. Indenting makes it easy to find your main points, subpoints, and the supporting points and examples below them. Let's work on understanding how to take main points and break them into smaller ideas by subordinating them further and further as we go by using the following outline example. Topic: Dog-specific purpose. To inform my audience about characteristics of dogs' thesis. There are many types of dogs that individuals can select from before deciding which would make the best family pet. Preview. First, I will describe the characteristics of large breed dogs, and then I will discuss characteristics of small breed dogs. Let's look at the characteristics of large breed dogs. A. Some large breed dogs need daily activity. B. Some large breed dogs are dog-friendly. C. Some large breed dogs drool. 1. If you are particularly neat, you may not want one of these. A. Bloodhounds drool the most. 1. After eating is one of the times drooling is bad. 2. The drooling is horrible after they drink, so beware. B. English bloodhounds drool a lot as well. 2. If you live in an apartment, these breeds could pose a problem. 2. Next, let's look at the characteristics of small breed dogs. A. Some small breed dogs need daily activity. B. Some small breed dogs are dog-friendly. C. Some small breed dogs are friendly to strangers. 1. Welsh Terriers love strangers. A. They will jump on people. B. They will wag their tails and nuzzle. 2. Beagles love strangers. 3. Cockapoos also love strangers. Subordination and coordination. You should have noticed that as ideas were broken down or subordinated, there was a hierarchy to the order. To check your outline for coherence, think of the outline as a staircase. All of the points that are beneath and on a diagonal to the points above them are subordinate points. Using the above example, points A, B, and C dealt with characteristics of large breed dogs, and those points are all subordinate to main point I. Similarly, points 1 and 2 under point C both dealt with drool, so those are subordinate. This is the subordination of points. If we had discussed food under point C, you would know that something didn't make sense. You will also see that there is coordination of points. As part of the hierarchy, coordination simply means that all of the numbers or letters should represent the same idea. In this example, A, B, and C were all characteristics, so those are all coordinate to each other. Had C been German Shepherd, then the outline would have been incorrect because that is a type of dog, not a characteristic. Parallelism. Another important rule in outlining is known as parallelism. This means that when possible, you begin your sentences in a similar way using a similar grammatical structure. For example, in the previous example on dogs, some of the sentences began some large breed dogs. This type of structure adds clarity to your speaking. Students often worry that parallelism will sound boring. It's actually the opposite. It adds clarity. Remember that a speech is verbal, and once the information is stated, it is gone. Key to creating a memorable speech is ensuring the audience can follow the speech and has something to remember at the end of the speech. Division. The principle of division is an important part of outlining. When you have a main point, you will be explaining it. You should have enough meaningful information that you can divide it into two subpoints A and B. If subpoint A has enough information that you can explain it, then it too should be able to be divided into two subpoints. So division means this: if you have an A, then you need a B; if you have a 1, then you need a 2, and so on. What if you cannot divide the point? In a case like that, you would simply incorporate the information in the point above. Connecting your main points. Transition statements are connectives that help move the audience through the speech. Each speech is a collection of main points. It is important that the audience knows what main point they are getting information about. One way to connect points is to include transitional statements. Transitional statements are phrases or sentences that lead from one distinct but connected idea to another. They are used to alert the audience to the fact that you are getting ready to discuss something else. Transitions are the bridges that move the audience through the speech. It is important that the speech is organized and the audience is clear on what point or subpoint we are presenting. When moving from one point to another, your transition may just be a word or short phrase known as a signpost. For instance, you might say next, also, or moreover. You can also enumerate your speech points and signal transitions by starting each point with first, second, third, etc. You might also incorporate non-verbal transitions, such as brief pauses or a movement across the stage. Pausing to look at your audience, stepping out from behind a podium, or even raising or lowering the rate of your voice can signal to audience members that you are transitioning. Another way to incorporate transitions into your speech is by offering internal summaries and internal previews within your speech. Summaries provide a recap of what has already been said, making it more likely that audiences will remember the points that they hear again. For example, an internal summary may sound like this: so far, we have seen that the pencil has a long and interesting history. We also looked at the many uses the pencil has that you may not have known about previously. Like the name implies, internal previews lay out what will occur next in your speech. They are longer than transitional words or signposts. Next, let us explore what types of pencils there are to pick from that will be best for your specific project. Additionally, summaries can be combined with internal previews to alert audience members that the next point builds on those that they have already heard. Now that I have told you about the history of the pencil as well as its many uses, let's look at what types of pencils you can pick from that might be best for your project. It is important to understand that if you use an internal summary and internal preview between main points, you need to state a clear main point following the internal preview. Here's an example integrating all the points on the pencil. First, let me tell you about the history of the pencil. So far, we have seen that the pencil has a long and interesting history. Now we can look at how the pencil can be used. 2. The pencil has many different uses, ranging from writing to many types of drawing. Now that I have told you about the history of the pencil as well as its many uses, let's look at what types of pencils you can pick from that might be best for your project. 3. There are over 15 different types of pencils to choose from, ranging in hardness and color. In conclusion, had Meg, the student mentioned in the opening anecdote, taken some time to work through the organizational process, it is likely her speech would have gone much more smoothly when she finished her introduction. It is very common for beginning speakers to spend a great deal of their time preparing catchy introductions, fancy PowerPoint presentations, and nice conclusions, which are all very important. However, the body of any speech is where the speaker must make effective arguments, provide helpful information, entertain, and present all the important information in the speech, so it makes sense that speakers should devote a proportionate amount of time to these areas as well. By following this chapter, as well as studying the other chapters in this text, you should be prepared to craft interesting, compelling, and organized speeches.